Tamara O'Garra Saavedra, and this is the topic I will be talking today is Warrior Women, Insight, Outlook. In a nutshell, what I want to convey is the realization that the act of overcoming obstacles is a power to embrace. But before I dive deep in, let me briefly introduce myself. Oh, sorry. Yes. Sorry, the wrong direction. I am currently working as a DevOps engineer in Utrust. Utrust is a payment gateway powered by Elrond, which enables businesses to accept crypto payments in a safe, seamless manner. And it's very exciting to be part of the Web3 movement that is going on right now, fostering the implementation of inclusivity and diversity from the very foundations of the projects that are being born. As to my background, I am a self-taught technologist. I explored many areas where technology meets society and the individual. And as I went through different phases and lessons of life, I learned that many of the blockers that get migrated from one technological revolution to the next are blockers that are implicit in society and the individual. So I believe tech should, can, and does help us alleviate these symptoms. So actually right now I'm overjoyed to see and be part of the rising tide of companies and projects and Web3 field that is proactively fostering the implementation of inclusivity and diversity. This is and presenting alternatives to some of the mechanisms of the current status quo that became perhaps somehow expired. I worked very hard to get here, as Anna very well explained. My life took a lot of twists and turns, and one of the major lessons I got out of this was how to turn your obstacles into realizations of power, and hence this topic. And especially now, the time being that diversity is being celebrated everywhere, and the wind is blowing in our favor, I believe it's time to set sail and celebrate this stepping forward. So, how I'm going to attempt to explain the transformation that is implicit, this mechanism of transforming your obstacles into tools of power, is through illustrating the interplay between insights and outlook. And to do that, I will illustrate it with 3 common blockers that I have experienced as in my professional, personal trajectory, emotional, mental, you name it. These are the insight outlook tool, I believe, works ubiquitously. So these are the common blockers that I will face, that I will comment on. I believe many of them are like my idea is not to explain them too much. I hope that through illustrating a couple of them, you might perhaps be familiar with all, you might resonate with some. The idea is to illustrate the mechanism of transformation. So the 3 that we have, yes, the freeze, imposter syndrome, and self-demolding. I will go into each in detail now. But the idea is to provide simple solutions so that you can just, in a fast, simple way, snap yourself out of these blocking situations. And through learning to get yourself out of these situations with simple solutions, and once you get the hang of the mechanism becomes your ally. Now I'm not going to do too much spoiler alert. We'll get to each of the simple solutions. So let's illustrate with some definitions. So the freeze. The freeze is a term coined by Kasia Urbaniak. She is a New York-based speaker, founder and CEO of the Academy, an amazing school that teaches how to stand in your power and in your influence, especially targeted to women. I am going to quote literally her definition of the freeze. And the freeze is a moment of neuromuscular lockdown, a state that renders women temporarily speechless. You cannot speak, or worse, you find yourself nodding yes, implying consent and agreement, when in fact you might be desperate to say no. So there are many examples about this. I don't want to have to explain all of these situations. I just want to present a couple and hope that you can resonate in with at least one. There are examples, uncomfortable questions you might get asked. Sometimes it might be more consciously inappropriate. Sometimes it might be unconsciously inappropriate. Sometimes it might not really even be inappropriate at all. Like, okay, why don't you have children? Weird, inappropriate question, depends on whether context. Can you stay some extra hours without getting paid? Sometimes freezing, not being able to say no. Or even being in a meeting and being asked, everything is all right with everybody, and you might want to say something, but you freeze and you can't get out of this internal state, and it becomes just more attention in, and more attention in, and more attention in. So what is a simple solution? Turn the spotlight. Whether it be other people's spotlight, but most importantly, your spotlight. Whether it be that you've been asked a question individually or collectively, you are in that point where your attention is just spiraling in. So you've got to put the attention out, get your attention out. So, and this is the simple solution. This is the whole mechanism described by Banyak. I will recommend that, and I'll link you at the end of the talk. And it's ask back. This is a very simple way of turning the spotlight. You get asked something that puts you in an uncomfortable zone, be it more consciously or not, by way of the questioner. Ask back, put the attention out. You need to give yourself that breathing space, do it. Don't worry about having to answer, just put it out there. Give yourself the breathing space to be able to let your mind stop falling into that spiral. So simple. You get asked something uncomfortable, don't even worry about answering. And this is actually some of the exercises that I carried out in this academy by Banyak. And I have done this, and I recommend everybody to do it with their friends, especially with your girlfriends. Get together and try to ask yourself questions. And the implicit instruction is don't answer the question. You know it's going to be an uncomfortable question, but be ready to ask back and test yourselves to the point where you might be able to perhaps start to feel the freeze and be in peace, assess and observe when that feeling comes on, so you can address it and snap yourself out of it with this simple solution. Doesn't matter if it can't be the most intelligent question in the world, just help yourself get the attention off you. So there we go, that's a simple solution for the freeze. Feel frozen, ask back. Next one will be the imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is a very interesting phenomenon. It was originally coined by Pauline Rose Clance and Susan Imes, two female psychologists, in 1978, in a study where they were studying high achieving women in the 70s, and they observed that these feelings that they termed imposter phenomenon occurred much more in women and much more intensely. I will quote from their article literally, which is to give a narrow definition in case anybody here is not familiarized with imposter syndrome. And it's despite outstanding academic and professional accomplishments, women who experience the imposter phenomenon persist in believing that they are really not bright and have fooled anyone who thinks otherwise. Now, this has happened many times to me, even before I knew this feeling, and then you end up learning with experience. But yes, I just wanted to add some fun memes, which are really worth it. This perfectly captures the feeling of imposter syndrome, this bottom meme on the left. And then it's funny because in the other memes, it's compared to Dunning-Kruger, which is the total opposite, as the graph very well describes. It's how good you think you are at something, and you might not be very good. Imposter syndrome is you are very good, but you think you're really not good. These are funny memes, but going back, 40 years later, yeah, this is a very interesting phenomenon, because 40 years later, this has been shared, this has been addressed, studied, made public, and now it's become a tool of empowerment for everybody, regardless of gender. It still does occur more with high frequency in women, but my theory is that it's a lack, well, part of the factors underlying this is the lack of reference models and networks of support that especially high achieving women in the 70s, like C-level women in the 70s, there were not many before to have a sense of reference. So first off, if you find that you have figures of reference, networks of support that you resonate with, do reach out, do build and bond, because it's not necessary to get, as much as you can, now that we have the public knowledge, these are things that will help you. However, if you end up being in a position where you do not know where to look at for reference, and you are being able to assess, detect these feelings, the same way with the freeze, whole point is being able to take the power of insight into your hands. And so if you don't have anything, any figures or networks, there is a very simple solution that is I'm going to reference Amy Cuddy's very famous TED Talk on power poses, one of the most watched TED Talks, but it is a very good TED Talk, which I'd always also link at the end of the talk. And her simple solution is fake it, because there are certain behavioral, bodily functions that come into play that we can't even control sometimes. When we start to spiral inward again, we'll freeze, we'll shrink, we'll make ourselves smaller, quieter, so sometimes you're at the place you've wanted to be, you've worked hard for, you have everything except you are being crippled by self-doubt. So just fake it. Start with the small. Start with power posing. Start by putting your chin up. Put your chest out. Get comfortable. So fake it. Do what you must. If there are things that you are afraid of, sign up. It doesn't matter. You will collapse, be paralyzed for a bit. But at some point, you will be doing it. And I very much recommend watching this TED Talk. It's amazing. So simple solution number 2, fake it. Try power posing. These are simple little fakes, but ever so important in helping sometimes unblock and come out of this inner state again. Get blocked in the inside state and have to help to go out to the outlook, and then keep on allowing the interplay between insight and outlook. That is what healthy power dynamics should be like. And I'm going to go to the last example, which is self-demoting. There are many examples of self-demoting. So the reluctance to claim achievements whilst expecting others to notice them, the desire to please and be likable. These are many typical self-demoting behaviors that women might engage in sometimes, and non-women, but I am speaking from my experience as a woman. Perfectionism and self-criticism, being too harsh with oneself, all this seems to fit in with the previous 2 examples also. So the example I'm going to use for this, which for me is a very important example, is menstruation. I believe, menstruation is a topic that we carry with a lot of weight. There are feelings of shame, guilt, embarrassment, weakness, even the maternity dilemma associated to it. And it's so central to human existence. It has just become a taboo for thousands of years, to the point that we've lost our language, our knowledge about it. So for us to be able to begin to observe, address new feelings, such as we do with the freeze, such as we do with the imposter syndrome, it helps to be able to have a language. So the same, reach out, speak, bring out this topic, because it's a topic of empowerment. And it should be a topic of self-celebration. So this is my answer to self-demoting. Whenever you can catch, slowly observe your patterns. It's not a catch. It's not like you're doing something wrong. Do it with all the love. Once you observe yourself, uncelebrating yourself, playing yourself downwards, celebrate yourself. Just once you realize, even if you need to do a list of gratitudes, do that. But make sure you celebrate yourself. And so these are the simple solutions that I suggest. The freeze us back, power pose, self-celebrate. And I want to leave some time for your questions, so I'm going to try and speed up through this. But basically, transform your obstacles into tools. This is a simple mechanism. Insight, become aware. So observe the patterns within you. Some of them you might even treat as they are indiscernible from your core identity. But it is only through this breathing, being able to slowly become aware, breathe, befriend and love the patterns you see, for better or worse. Because if not, they'll hide again. You can't be harsh on yourself. And then once you can touch your clear inner vision and you have, you get in tune with your insight, look and see how your inner changes affect your outer worldview, and thus the reality we are forming, because this is going to affect how you interact with it. And back again. And so goes the circle, insight and outlook. This is a very amazing mechanism to be able to transform situations, turn them so they're in your stride. And the powers, I just want to end with powers that already, through our millennia of conditioning, there are some things that might be more challenging, but there are some powers we already carry with us. So number one, and we very much know this, but I still think it's worth mentioning, is empathy. Empathy, if communicated and shared, elevates the whole group. And the example is Web3 projects. They have decentralized distributed ethos, and they lead to proactive investment down from the very foundation of projects. But most importantly, insight. It goes hand in hand with intuition. So have no fear to look inside and make allies of your true heartfelt visions. Because if you can feel them and address them and project them, they will become real. Like, best example for me are your dreams. So make your dreams become your tools. And with this, I thank all of you for joining me. Sorry if I didn't leave much time for questions. But I don't know if I'm still here, but
you're here. Make your dreams become your tools. How powerful is that? I also love the idea of the list of gratitudes. This is super powerful and can really boost our self-esteem. And I'm really grateful, Tammy, for this presentation today, for stressing on the common blockers, for raising the topic of menstruation. I think that this is such a normal part of our existence as we are women. And being a taboo for so many centuries, it is ridiculous. But I think it's time for us to strive to raise awareness and to actually be our own advocates and support each other. So thank you so much for this powerful presentation today. I just want to share, I'm already sharing some comment. Thank you so much. I think if our audience has some questions, they would be probably happy to connect with you. Would LinkedIn work?
Yes. Oh, sorry. The last page has, if anybody wants to take a screenshot.
Take it. This is your moment. I will also drop your LinkedIn in the chat. So Tammy, this was great to have you with us. Thank you so much. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you for your contribution to the global conference, to the Career Growth Summit. Super excited. And make sure to drop by the booth of Utrust and say hi. And wishing you a great day, the rest of the day, and stay with us also in the chat. Connect with some people. Thank you so much, Tammy.
Thank you, everybody.